Good afternoon. Let's start by watching some of my most intense and memorable moments in my life. And this is not AI. Good afternoon. I'm back. What could be the connection between my extreme environment and your business environment? Well, that's exactly what I'm going to talk about today. And most of the projects we have in life starts with the dream. We all have dreams, I hope so. And my dream when I was a kid was to fly. I was obsessed with flying. I was dreaming about flying, and I was convinced that one day I would be able to fly. And I remember telling this to one of my school teachers, and she said, people can't fly. She was right, but it was a very polite way to tell a little kid, stop dreaming and go back to normal. I never went back to normal. And after university, I'm from Brussels, I moved to the US to become a pilot. That was my first contact with flying. And I started flying helicopters, and after a while I found it a little bit boring to fly in a machine because it was not really what I was looking for. I was looking for extreme freedom. I was looking for speed. I was looking to be in contact with the elements, and that's why I started skydiving, jumping out of an airplane with a parachute. I was literally flying my body. And for me, I think unconsciously I was getting a little bit closer to my dream of flying. And then I moved back to Brussels and I started base jumping. And normally we jump from mountains, but Belgium is very flat. So I modified a parachute, and I was, I think, the first or one of the first. And I jumped from every possible building, structure, bridge, antenna in Belgium and in around. And then in end of the 90s, I think it was 98, I saw a picture of a French guy, Patrick de Gaillardon, with a wingsuit, literally a suit with wings. And my first reaction was, this is it, people can fly. And I knew him a little bit. It's a very small community. He was the first one to do this. He was a pioneer. We didn't have any knowledge, we didn't have any experience. And I called him and I asked him, I want one of your suits because this is what I've been dreaming since I was a little kid. And he said, yeah, okay, a friend of mine is making them. Send me your measurements and we're gonna send you a wingsuit. So I got my first wingsuit in a little box. I unboxed it and I tried it first from an airplane to see if it worked. It worked, otherwise I wouldn't be here to talk about it. And I would be back in the box. But I'm still here and this has been my main discipline for the last, well, a little bit over 25 years. A lot of people ask me, are you still using a parachute? Yes, otherwise I would have done it one time. And it's something you want to do on repeat. It's literally a sport, it's a skill, it's a discipline. There's a lot of progression. We have a better technique, we have more knowledge, we have more experience, we have better material, we have better profile. It's literally a little airplane. And I have a lot of friends who are pilots, airline pilots, jet fighter pilots, and every time they see this, they have the same reaction. They say, oh, people can really fly, okay? We're still falling because we don't have any engine, and that's why we still need a parachute. To this day, but this has been, I'm still very passionate, I'm still training a lot, I'm still testing new prototypes all the time. And for me, it started as a hobby, it started as a passion. I didn't have any plan, I was doing other stuff, I had a company back in the days, and I really believe in timing, I really believe in staying open for opportunities. And in 2000, I met the right people at the right time. I met people from Red Bull. And long story short, they asked me, do you want to be part of the team? I said, yes, of course. I didn't think too long. Because for me, it was a way to monetize my passion. It was a way to travel the world, to lead expedition. And most importantly, it was a way to connect and meet highly inspiring people from everywhere, from every culture. And this has been my journey since, I would say, 25 years. And people ask me, okay, but what do you do for your sponsors? What is your, basically, is that a job? Very simple, I'm creating content. And today, I think as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, we all have to tell a story. It's the power of storytelling. It's the power of creating content. And I'm not going to talk about Red Bull. You like the product or you don't, that's not the point. But the world of Red Bull is really interesting because the marketing is based basically on emotions, connecting people, and a very strong storytelling. And this is not even the future of business, but I think this is where everyone, whether you have a small business or a big business, doesn't matter, but this is. So I've been telling stories, I've been organizing projects, I've been leading expeditions. This is one of my, I would say, most interesting. This was in the Amazon jungle in northern Peru, one of the highest waterfall in the world. Nobody has ever jumped from it. I was the first. I had a team of 60 people, which is quite a big team. It was very remote, not very accessible, very difficult to get there, very interesting. But my most interesting project in terms of patience and teamwork is there in Egypt, above the pyramids. It took me 6 years to be able to do this. It took me 6 years to be able to have the authorizations. A lot of negotiation with the government, a lot of negotiation with military people, Egyptian Air Force. And finally, I was about to fly 3 times above the pyramids. I was also the first one. What I remember from this project is not the performance, because it's not super dangerous. We had a really good conditions. We had a great preparation. My goal is always to minimize my risk and maximize my chances of success. But my main takeaway from this project was my team. I had a team of almost 100 people from 15 different countries. You can imagine what kind of cultural diversity. I had obviously people from Middle East, people from Egypt, I had people from UAE, I had people from South Africa, South America, Japanese, Germans, name it. Of course, Belgians. I always have a core team in Belgium. I had a lot of women, a lot of men, very young people, older people, and also very diverse in skills. I had very risk-averse people, and I had more people who were open to take the risks. It's really interesting to see that, and it's not easy at first to get everyone walking and looking in the same direction. You need a very good communication, you need inclusion, you need very clear goals, you need a clear purpose, and you need a very strong story. And what you want to do is bring everyone on board. It's onboarding everyone and basically looking in the same direction. We made it, every one of us. Was very, very interesting to see. Took some time, took some energy, a lot of positive, efficient, transparent communication, no assumptions, clear goals. We know that, but it's not always easy to basically apply this on a scale with 100 people. And I believe today in every business, super diversity is the future. It's making a team much more interesting, and it's an enrichment on a human level for basically everyone. I still have a lot of projects, I still have a lot of dreams, but my first question was, what is the connection between my world, my extreme high-risk environment, and your environment, your business environment? Originally, and that's my background, I'm a psychologist, and I specialize myself in what we call, back in the days it was called applied sports psychology, so it was very, very tied to professional sports, elite sports. And today we're moving out of the sport environment, and basically we call it high performance psychology. In what we study in high performance psychology, it's not rocket science. You will see everything I'm going to share. You heard about it. You probably know it already, but it's always good to have some repetition. But basically, in one sentence, is why and how some people, some organizations, in any type of environment, in a high pressure environment, in a very demanding environment, are performing better than others. And in professional sports, it's very obvious. You have to perform, you have to be the best, you have to push yourself all the time, otherwise you're basically nowhere. In a business environment, I think today with AI, with uncertainty, with all the changes we're seeing, you have to go basically from good to great. So the first question is always, what is increasing, or what could increase my performance as an individual, but what could increase my performance in my business, in my team? This is something I've been studying for years. I've been working with high performance in any type of environments. It's really interesting. But one question I've been asking myself for a long time as well is, what is performance? And if I would ask everyone here in the room, give me a definition of performance. Give me your definition of success. I would have probably 100 different answers. Performance is very personal. Performance is something very subjective. Success is different for everyone. We all climb a ladder. I think it's the ladder of life, or call it the corporate ladder. We all want recognition, we all want status, we all want to find a place in society. And I see people who are very high on the ladder but deeply unsatisfied. And I see some people who are lower on the ladder but deeply happy and deeply satisfied. So for me, performance is not how high you are. The question is your ladder at the right side of the wall? For me, success and performance is trying to be your best every day, pushing yourself, stretching basically your comfort zone, but most importantly, being fully aligned with your core values as a human being. You're not defined by a title, you're not defined by a job. You're defined by values. And if you're aligned, if you are following your own path, this is what I call success. And this is something I'm really emphasizing today with the new generation. Follow your path. Have the courage to follow your path and to stay aligned with who you are as a human being. This is the most important thing. Okay, back to my question, what is increasing performance? There are many factors, and you know them. But that's usually the problem. There's a huge gap between what we know. Oh yeah, I know. I've read this. I've heard a podcast. I've seen someone like me talking on an event. Yeah, I know. But there's a huge gap between what you know and what you do. And there's a reason for that. But what will make you better in what you do? Very simple, genetics, IQ, okay? You don't really change this. You have epigenetics, you can modify your genes. It's really interesting, but you're defined. You have predetermined conditions. You have your social environment. You have your education. You have your degrees. You have hard skills, very important. You have technical skills. We all have this here, otherwise we wouldn't be here. Basically, you have a strategy, you have an action plan, you have a business plan, you have everything on paper that's basically should and will, to a certain point, increase your performance in any type of environment. For me, it's the same. I have technical skills, I'm training, I have preparation. There are many factors. Genetics, I have my physical skills, and name it. But today, and I really believe that it has never been so important in the business environment today, there is one way to go from good to great, to reach what I call excellence and to create a culture of excellence. And this is basically your mental toughness. This is your mental strength. This is your resilience. How do you deal with failure? How do you deal with setbacks? Your biggest asset as a business owner today is basically how do you deal with stress? How do you deal with uncertainty? Your brain is the perception of your reality. Your thoughts, your emotions are giving a certain direction to your actions, your daily actions, everything you do. They're giving a certain direction to your habits, and basically your habits are shaping your life. It's shaping your behavior. It's shaping your personality. How do you stay calm under pressure? This is something we teach elite athletes all the time. How do you choose to stay deliberately calm when the stakes are high? How do you keep performing when it really matters? This is basically in your head. And there are many scientific researches on this, but we see that the top 10 in any type of sports, it's mental toughness. Because technically, the first 500 athletes in tennis, golf, football, they're all the same. Where do they make a difference? In their brain. So how do you deal with your emotions? How do you regulate your emotions? It's not that easy. And a lot of time I have this discussion with people. Okay, yeah, mental toughness, mental strength, resilience, being able to let go and move on when something doesn't go as planned. It's easier said than done. Yeah, for sure. And there's one reason for that. And the main reason, we're not born mentally strong. I was not born mentally strong. I was basically mentally very bad when I was a kid. I was competing in different sports. I was not resilient. I was not mentally tough. I've learned it. I've trained my brain to become mentally tougher and basically to become mentally strong. We have what we call a negativity bias. Basically, the human brain hasn't evolved that much. The human brain is not made for winning. The human brain is not made for performance. The human brain is made for two things: survival and reproduction. I'm going to talk about survival because that's the topic basically. So when you are under pressure, when you have to perform, it's very easy to go in what we call into a negativity bias and focus on what can go wrong instead of going the other direction and focus on what can go right. There's always this little question, what if? And you have another direction, I can. It's completely different. Basically, the brain is going to spend energy and focus on negative thoughts and negative emotions for a very simple reason: it's a threat. When you get criticized by someone, it's going to stay in your head. And you're going to ask yourself, why am I being criticized? Why do I get negative feedback? When you get a compliment of someone, it's not a threat. And you're going to like, okay, fine. And you forget about it. Mentally strong people, they have what we call positive thoughts and emotion. They stick like Velcro, and negative emotions, they glide like Teflon. This is basically the definition of mental toughness and resilience. So the question is, how do you regulate your emotions? Basically, how do you let go? We have approximately 60% negative thoughts every day and 40% positive thoughts. You could say it's more or less in balance. No, because again, the brain is going to focus mainly on these negative thoughts and negative emotions. This is what we call the negativity bias. And we all have a internal dialogue. We're all speaking to ourselves. Basically, the moment you wake up, you have an internal dialogue. And it can be very negative, it can be very positive, and most of the time it's very unconscious. When I'm standing on the edge, ready to go, I have this internal dialogue, this little mind game with myself, and I'm really talking to myself. And I can go in either direction. I can ask myself, what if the weather changed? What if my parachute doesn't open? What if I slip from the exit? What if? It's an endless conversation. I can go the other direction and tell myself, I can. I can because I've trained for, I prepared myself, I'm focused, I have a lot of clarity. It's like a checklist. And when my checklist is, when every box is ticked, I'm going. And I have to believe, I need the desire to make it happen because I know that I'm ready for it. So it's a switch between a negative self-talk and a positive self-talk. But for me, in my environment, I've always been working with a few techniques, and I'm always trying to simplify. And these are techniques that you can apply in basically any type of environment, whether it's artistic, whether it's a business environment, in an extreme environment. I had a podcast, I interviewed 150 elite athletes, I had Formula One drivers, I had professional skiers, I had Mondo Duplantis who just broke a record, I had a lot of people, and basically it came back all the time to the same things, the same skills. So today with AI, it's a threat. You can look at it however you want, but I believe these skills will make a difference in the future. And for me, the very first skill is your ability to embrace uncertainty, your ability to embrace discomfort, your ability to push yourself, to take some calculated risks, and basically to stretch out your comfort zone. The opposite of discomfort is comfort. And today we have a big problem with what I call excessive comfort. For most of us, we're living in a very aggressive, excessive comfort. And if you go a little bit further, we call this complacency. You've heard about complacency? Yes? Complaisance? Zelfgenoegzaamheid? Okay? Yeah? In my environment, and any high-risk environment, complacency is my biggest enemy. Comfort is my biggest enemy. I've seen people literally dying because they were complacent. They thought, I've been doing this for 15 years, I don't have to question myself, I can do this for the next 15 years. I have 12,000 jumps over the last almost 30 years. I could tell myself, I know everything, I'm one of the most experienced person in the world. This is gonna lead me to a fatality. This is the fastest way for me to an injury. In your business environment, complacency is the fastest way to obsolescence. Stay curious, stay open for new solutions, question yourself all the time, and don't get blinded by your ego. When I see young people starting a business or even starting this type of activity, any extreme discipline, the first thing I tell them, leave your ego at home. Because at one point, your ego is gonna kill you. In my environment, it's a literal thing. In your environment, it's not that literal, but you become very irrelevant and basically obsolete. The interesting thing about pushing yourself and embracing discomfort and being open for change, it's what we call a growth mindset, it's gonna increase your skills. You're gonna become better in what you do. The better you become in what you do, the better you will be able to deal with uncertainty. Because you know if something happens unexpected, I have the skills to solve it. Another interesting thing, it's gonna increase your pattern recognition. You're gonna see some patterns. And again, when something unexpected happens, you know I've been solving this before. I know, I'm okay with that. I'm gonna question myself, but I'm gonna basically find a solution. It's gonna increase your self-confidence. It's gonna increase your self-efficacy. The belief that you can solve something, that you can make something happen. And most importantly, and this is for me the most important when I'm taking a risk, it's gonna increase my satisfaction. And I'm never gonna take a risk or push myself if I don't have a deep satisfaction of who I am and what I've been doing. And I can look back and say, I did this. I did this. Like I said in the very beginning, but my most intense, and it's for everyone the same, memorable moment in life are way outside of my comfort zone. And sometimes people ask me, why do you do this? Even myself, sometimes I'm questioning, why would I do this? And for me, it's still a way to explore my skills and talents and basically to get to know my deepest self. How far can I go as a human being? I'm exploring all the time, in everything, in speaking, in connecting with people, in leading. Everything I do, for me, it's about curiosity, growing as a human being, and exploring and see how far I can go. This is really interesting. A second skill is deep focus. And in my environment, it's a question of survival. I'm not multitasking, I'm not distracted. Today, I think it's very difficult not to be distracted. Our attention is one of our most important assets. And people try to steal it all the time. But so for me, deep focus is something I work on all the time. And when I look at high achievers, people who are really knowing where they're going, they have a lot of clarity. They have clear goals. They have clear priorities. They're not distracted. They're focusing on solutions, not problems. They're focusing on what makes them happy and satisfied. Because at the end of the day, an interesting question to ask yourself, was I busy or productive? I know a lot of busy people because they're distracted all the time, they don't have clear goals, they're not thinking clear. And if you go further, and this is, I think, the biggest enemy of resilience and mental toughness, it's mental overload. You have a headspace. Your brain has a certain space. If you put too much in your brain, it's gonna drain your mental energy. So for me, it's about being very selective with the energy and the time I'm gonna spend on something. I'm protecting my mental energy all the time because I need clarity and I still wanna know exactly where I wanna go. That's having a sense of deep focus. And then finally, it's your ability to work with people, to collaborate, your reputation. Are you credible? Are you reliable? These are interesting questions. Do you trust people, and are you a trusted leader? This is where you make a difference in business. For me, it's the same. I will never start an expedition or lead an expedition if I don't have a very high level of trust. It's interesting because when I ask people, you want to be trusted? Who wants to be trusted? Raise your hand. Okay, fine. Okay. Reverse the question. Do you trust everyone? No. Okay. Why? Because it's a risk. Basically, you need some type of courage to trust people. We have differences. We make assumptions. We have preconceived ideas. We have a certain education. There are many, many things. Je peux avoir un verre d'eau, s'il vous plaît? Glass of water. Yeah. Okay. But it's interesting to see that in every team I've been working with, and my team and your team is the same. We need a very high level of trust all the time. So how do you increase trust? For me, it's about having a very transparent communication, clear goals, clear expectations, positive, efficient, inclusion, very important, respect. That's the first thing I'm working on. Accountability. I'm never gonna basically work with someone if the person is not fully accountable. If I see someone in my team complaining and blaming external factors, I'm not working with you. I'm not interested. I want someone who is fully accountable. This is my mistake. I'm okay with it. Ask for help. It takes some courage to ask for help. But I believe today there's been a lot of talk about creating psychological safety within teams, creating what we call a safe space. Thank you very much. I believe we have to step up the game and we have to create what I call a brave space. A brave space where everyone has the courage to speak up, to be themselves, to ask for help when you don't know, to give feedback, to receive feedback, to try to learn, to stay curious and be able to fail. And you need some courage. Why? Because you always be afraid of what people, how they're judging you. You want to fit in. This is from the prehistory. If you were rejected by your tribe, it meant death. That's why it's so easy, and it's usually the easy solution. You fit in, you don't say anything, and basically you don't speak up. Have the courage to speak up. That's what I'm asking every member of my team all the time. And this is really creating a brave space in every team. It's the most important thing. So a question I have a lot is, yeah, okay, fine. Embrace discomfort. Yeah, great. Deep focus, clarity. Okay. Collaborate. Create a courageous collaboration with people. Okay, fine. But where do you start? Well, for me, there's one starting point, and for every one of us, and this is what I call self-awareness, is how good do you know yourself? And as a leader, I'm going to call this self-leadership. Are you able to question yourself? Are you able to ask yourself confronting questions? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What are my core values? What are my distractions? Because most of the time between you and where you want to go, you have all kinds of distractions. Have the courage, be bold, and ask yourself the right question, because the better you know yourself, the better decisions you will make, and the better decisions you will make, the better results you will have. A lot of time people ask me, did you know from a very young age what you wanted to do in life? I never knew, even until today. I don't really know. But I've always very, very clear with myself. I knew exactly who I wanted to be. And I knew exactly what my core values were. And I've always been following these core values. And for me, that's, like I said in the beginning, that's probably a big part of what I call success. And I'm really encouraging everyone to do the same. But get to know yourself, self-awareness. Is it easy? No. No. Again, the brain. The brain is playing us tricks all the time. And this is neuroscience. But the brain has something what we call cognitive bias. The brain is making shortcuts all the time. And 95% of our life, for most of us, is unconscious or subconscious on autopilot. You're waking up, you're doing the same thing over and over. You're not asking yourself basically what you're doing all the time and why you're doing this. It's the end of the day, you go back to bed, and the day, the time goes by, it flies like, and the older you get, the faster it goes, believe me. This is because you live your life probably most of the time very unconsciously. The brain is making shortcuts all the time. And it's very easy. When I have to drive back home after my keynote, I'm not asking myself, what do I have to do to drive back home, okay? It's very normal. So it's saving a lot of mental energy. But when you are under pressure, when you have to make an important decision in life, when you have to keep performing, when you have to thrive under pressure, the brain unconsciously is gonna go back to what you have experienced before. The brain is gonna go back to what you know. This is why it's so hard to change. There's been a lot of talk the last years about transformation, change management, and there's a lot of slogans and quotes on how to change. Basically, it's very easy to get stuck and to keep what we call this fixed mindset, because we're all stuck in habits, every one of us. We have life habits, we have routines. I like routines, but sometimes you have to stop some habits and create new habits to go where you want to go. That's the first thing. Belief system. We all have preconditioned tendencies and a certain belief system. And it comes from our social environment, education, a lot of stuff, but we have certain beliefs. And I see this every day with a lot of people. You're limiting yourself. I'm too old, I don't have the educational background, I don't have the resources, I'm too young, I don't have the experience to do this. It's not the perfect moment, I'm not ready for this. Basically, we're making excuses all the time. As simple as that. You will never be ready. You will always have limiting beliefs, and most of the limits you have are limits you're setting yourselves. As simple as that. So it's a question of habits, belief system. We all have opinions, and sometimes from our education it's very hard to change opinions. And there are many things, there are many factors that is preventing us from increasing our self-awareness, and this way we can change, we can transform our life. But for me, the stepstone of change is increasing your self-awareness. In my environment, I need to be in what I call a state of hyper-awareness. It's not even self-awareness. I need to be completely connected with myself. I need to know my skills. I need to be connected with my ego. Where do I stand? And I need to be connected with my environment. This is deep connection. And the more connected you are with yourself as a human being, the more connected you are with your environment, with other people, this is interconnection, the better decisions you can make. In my environment, decision making is a question of life and death. So every time it's the same thing. Am I making the right decision at the right time? Simple as that. And I'm gonna end on this. Fear. This is man's oldest emotion. I think it's the most interesting of our emotion, because most of the time, if not every time, between you and your dreams, there is fear. Fear of failure, fear of change, and the biggest fear of all, the fear of being judged and rejected. Nobody likes to be judged and rejected. What will people think? Oh, I'm not going to do this because people, no, I'm not. This is fear of being rejected. Okay? A question I have a lot is, do you feel fear? So a lot of people think, because of what I do, that I don't feel fear. I'm fearless. So people think I have a brain issue, or I'm a very special person with very special forces, talent, skills that nobody has. I'm a mutant. No. I'm a very normal human being. I feel fear like I hope most of you. But I like fear because there is a strategy, I have an action plan. Basically, I'm turning fear into a drive. And when you see people taking risks and going all in for their dreams, you always think they don't feel any fear. They must be fearless. They have skills I don't have. They have resources I don't have. No. These are very normal human beings. They have one thing, they have courage. They have the desire to make it happen. They believe in what they do. This is really where you make a difference. And believe me, someone who is able to take action despite of the fear, someone who is able to confront fear, everyday little things, you don't have to jump from a building, everything you do, like confronting fear, you're training your brain to take action despite of the fear. And you get to a certain point that you take more control over your life and you really become the architect of your life. You take action despite of the fear. There's an interesting fact, and I'm going to end on this, about fear. But fear only exists in the past, and it's what we call anxiety or even depression. And fear exists even more in the future, and it's what we call anxiety. We all know this. We all have moments of not depression, but like we're in the past. Oh, I should have done this. Oh, it could have been like this. But most of the time we're in the future, and we get anxious because we're not certain, because we don't know, because it's discomfort. Fear doesn't exist in the present moment. When I'm flying, I'm completely absorbed in the present moment, and I'm letting go of everything. And when you see people who are performing under pressure, whether it's a concert at a festival, whether it's a sport event, whether it's a business meeting or a keynote or anything, these are people who are completely in the present moment. And they're letting go of everything. They're not overwhelmed by their emotions. They're regulating their emotions, but they're not overthinking either. So you really find the balance between the rational part and the emotional part of the brain. And I found a way to be completely absorbed in the present moment by taking action. And for me, the best antidote to fear is taking action, is asking myself, what is the first step that I can take today to get closer to my dream, to get closer to my goal? So in the end, there's no magic formula for success. It's very personal. There's no magic trick. A lot of people ask me, give us some kind of magic trick or whatever. No, these are very boring things. And I always say, if you want to be in the 1%, you have to be willing to do what 99% of the people are not willing to do. Boring stuff over and over, over and over. But for me, it's about pushing yourself, embracing discomfort, having a deep focus, knowing exactly where you want to go, and your ability to work with other people, to collaborate. Credibility, accountability, trust, and be courageous, but with other people. And then your ability to confront fear. Inaction, basically not taking action, has a cost. And it's what we call the bill of regret. This is my biggest fear, is having regrets. So for me, it has always been about taking action. And no one of us can predict the future. No one. But by taking action, you can really create your future. Thank you very much. It's very hot in here.
Hello, so we have a question. How do you draw the line between taking a risk and being reckless?
How do I draw the line between taking a risk and being reckless? Well, I've been doing this quite well because I'm still here. If you're reckless in this type of environment, you don't have what we call a long life. I've seen a lot of reckless people, but for me it's about ego. That's what I said. Leave your ego at home. And then training and planning and having a clear strategy. There's always this balance between skill and challenge. And if my skills are under my challenge, I'm going to reskill myself. And I'm going to make that I'm skilled enough to embrace the challenge. If my skills are way above my challenge, I get bored. So I'm going to basically... So for me, there's always this balance between skill and challenge.
Okay, so when do employees move beyond money-driven performance to commitment to the company's mission, and how can firms measure performance then?
I have to read this again.
I summarized.
Okay. At what point do you think people stop work?
The question is, when do employees move beyond money-driven performance to commitment to the company's mission, and how can firms measure performance then?
Well, you have KPIs, of course. We all know them. For me, KPI is keep people inspired. That's the most important KPI. Well, money-driven, it's an interesting question because I believe we all work for money, right? Yeah? Okay, there's more than money, but I think there's nothing bad or nothing wrong about having a job. And I've had this discussion a lot with people. What is your purpose? Okay, why do you do what you do? We all have a different purpose. If your purpose is providing for your family or going on holiday or whatever, fine, it's okay. You don't need to have like this bullshit purpose and changing the world or whatever. So find the purpose that fits you best. It's again, it's very subjective, very personal. But I believe that, performance, well, you have numbers, obviously. And I love numbers. I'm always using data as I'm using all the time. I'm using them. But at the end of the day, it's a human that makes a difference. And if you keep people inspired, if you keep people involved, KPI, I think you will make a difference.
The last question is, do you have an advice for interviews?
For interviews?
Yeah.
Do I have an advice for interviews? Like when you go for a job, right?
I think they mean that,
yeah?
yes. I guess.
I've never done one, so I don't know. Be yourself. As simple as that. Be authentic. Be yourself. Don't play a game. Don't wear a mask. be yourself, go. What I really like is not thinking about the outcome. If you have a date with someone, it's a good example, I think. If you're always thinking about the outcome and where you want to go, you're going to put a lot of pressure on yourself. I think an interview is exactly the same. If you go there and I have to, you put a lot of pressure on yourself. Go there and we'll see what happens. If it's for me, it's for me. If it's not for me, detach yourself from the outcome. It's full detachment. The biggest issue, I think one of the biggest issues in our society today is when there is a big difference between the reality of your life and your expectations. Come back to the reality of your life, but manage your expectations and detach yourself from the outcome. Thank you.